So this is why you sound sloppy on drums, and it's because of one thing, but it's technically four different things. I'm just gonna tell you the answer. It's the stroke types. So if you don't know what the stroke types are, then this is a really good video to kind of introduce you to these. And if you do know about these, then you should probably stay, because there's some things that I'm gonna be talking about that might not be common knowledge. That might help you if you are struggling with some stuff. So you miss an important fundamental when you don't know about your stroke types, because they're the foundation for everything. It's literally everything that you play. You're either going down, you're either using the rebound, you're either playing piano, or you're going up. It's literally that simple. So if you miss it, your clarity when you're playing the drums isn't as clear. Cool. And a lot of people, when they first learn how to drum, drumming is very physical, and so many things that get us into drumming is the things that we want to play, right? If we want to play, if the things that got us into drumming was the flashy stuff and all the fast stuff, which for me it was literally that, then we're gonna want to play those things as fast as we can and as early as we can. But if we miss that important step of stroke types and our fundamentals, then we kind of lose sight of what's actually important, which is just the basics of drumming. And so ultimately what this comes down to is just respecting the art of drumming and just kind of knowing the ins and outs of the basics before we start playing all the stuff that is fancy. We have to pay a little more respect to, I think actually it was Matt Gardska that I heard say this, and he said it really well. It's just, you have to respect the game. You have to respect the game of drumming in order to play the fancy things. You just have to learn the fundamentals. That's all. And so when I'm looking online and I'm looking at people teaching these fundamentals, I'm seeing no fundamentals technically. I'm seeing no fundamentals being taught. I'm not seeing any stroke types. I'm not seeing any of the things that are common knowledge to a lot of people in my circle. So I'm really here just to teach those fundamentals and to get you from good to best, or from average to good, or maybe if you're a beginner to good. So these first four stroke types are going to be really, really important. Cool. And before we go on, I want to just tell you a quick story, because I struggled with this a lot. So my story is when I was in high school, I think it was around my sophomore, junior year, I was playing a lot of things, and I was playing a lot of things good in my head, which I thought was good. But I quickly found out that my stroke types, there was one stroke type that later on I realized was causing a lot of issues with my hands, kind of a lot of tension, holding a lot of tension, and it was a downstroke. When I would go down, I would I have sticks right here. I would literally use the downstroke as like a pull. I would just squeeze my hand as fast as I can and hard as I can every time to go down. And that over time kind of caused a lot more issues, because if your hand is tight, then the thing after you play a downstroke is going to be really hard to play. So that really caused a lot of issues, and it wasn't really until maybe 3 years after that I started to realize that every time I downstroked, I opened up my fingers and squeezed, which is literally the worst thing that you can possibly do. And so without that knowledge of stroke types and what you should feel in every stroke type, I would have never known that the downstroke was literally the thing that was causing a lot of my issues. So the four stroke types, since I haven't said it, the four stroke types are, well, basically, I'm going to say the stroke type, and then I'm going to have two letters after the stroke type to kind of symbolize where we started and where we're going. And that for me was the easiest way to learn, which is using just kind of a binary system. And obviously, these aren't binary strokes, but if we live in this binary kind of way, then everything becomes a little more clear. So H being high and then L being low. And these four stroke types are just a combination of the H's and the L's. Cool? So the first stroke type is full stroke, and that is going to be starting high and ending high. And then the second stroke type is going to be downstroke, which is starting high and ending low. The third stroke type is going to be tap stroke, which is going to be starting low and ending low. And then the last one is a upstroke, which is starting low, ending high. So those are the 4 stroke types, and that knowledge is not good enough because you can still mess it up. But if we know that these stroke types kind of live in this kind of little Punnett square where those 4 areas are a combination of highs and lows, then everything becomes a little more clear, and everything becomes a little easier. And before we move on and talk about these stroke types, I want to mention that we have a free community with a bunch of drummers that are providing a lot of knowledge, including myself and others, that if you are a beginner or you want to get better, this is like the best place to be, and it's for free. Cool. So if you want to join, click the link below and it'll be right there. Cool. So let's just dive right into it. Okay. So the first stroke type is going to be the full stroke, and with the full stroke, you're going to want to start high and end high. Cool. And that's literally it. So how do we do that? We do it through rebound, and that is the most important key element to a full stroke, and honestly key element to drumming. It's just really using the tension of the drum, or if you're on a drum pad, the tension or the rebound of the gum rubber or any surface that it's on, utilizing that rebound. And I'm going to show you right here or right here a couple clips of me playing, and I really want you to notice 2 things. It's my hand being open, right, letting the stick rebound, letting the pocket of my hand dictate the rebound of the drum, right? If your hand is closed, then your rebound is not going to rebound, right? Because you're not letting the stick breathe and not letting the wood kind of resonate on the drum. And so it's really important that you keep your hand open so that the stick, after the rebound, comes back to where you started. And it's a simple equation of if you throw with velocity, the velocity that it comes back with is going to equal, right? So it's like bouncing a basketball. It's like if I'm bouncing a basketball, the basketball is going to bounce if I put energy into it. But if I just drop it, it's just going to drop. It's the same with if I just drop the stick. There's going to be rebound, but it's going to constantly keep going down. So a full stroke is just returning to your original state where you started, right? If I started high and I throw it, it's going to end high in one motion, one easy motion through rebound. Cool? So open hand and rebound. That's all you need. Cool? So number 2 is a downstroke. And with the downstroke, like I said in my story, you don't want to squeeze. So what a downstroke is going to be closed hand, that is a very relaxed hand, and you're just going down, hitting the drum, and then it's going to come back slightly because there has to be some sort of rebound. There can't be some sort of dead stroke. Like if your stick is going down and then it just stops, that means you're interfering with the stick, probably through tension. So you're probably, if you slow-mo it, you're going to go down, and then it'll bounce back up, but it'll stay pretty low. And so you want to keep that closed hand. You don't want to squeeze, and that is pretty much it. No squeeze. That's the most important thing. Don't do what I did. Don't squeeze. And if you just stay low, it'll be fine. And if you're starting out, you want to start in a very extreme case where you start high and then you throw the stick and it ends pretty low. So if you have control over the height where you start and end, then you can kind of explore that range of, oh wait, how low do we want to go or how high do we want to go? But in extremes, it's going to be a really easy way and nice way to kind of see that difference. Cool? So that's a downstroke. A tap stroke is when we start low and end low. And so with this one, it really depends what you're playing, but you might have your hand closed if you're going slow enough, right? You're using the rebound, but it's very slight and you're at a low height that it's going to keep the hand closed, So, but as you go faster and you start using your wrist, you start using the rebound of the drum, then your hand becomes a little more open because you have to use your fingers to keep the stick in motion. Cool? So it really depends on what you're playing, but the tap stroke is going to be kind of this imbalance where it might be closed, it might be open, depending on how fast and what you're playing. And the biggest thing with tap strokes is when you are going fast or you are slow, you want to make sure that the sound is even and the height is even. And so, especially with drumming, since it's so visual, you can look at the height and see if you're getting at that top height every time. And if the height is even, then you can go to the next level and go, is my sound even? And so if the sound is doing a lot of hiccups, you know, if we're looking at kind of a sound wave, if it's doing a lot of like this and then jumps up and then jumps down, it's not a even sound, and you really want to keep that even sound because everything else will be based off your tap sound. Cool. So tap strokes are really important. Last one's going to be upstrokes. So with upstrokes, it's going to be the hardest to feel good, and I feel like I still don't have a good tap or a good upstroke. You just want to make sure that you first attack it like a tap stroke, but because it needs to go up, the taps after it hits the drum, it has to go up. So you have to have a closed hand to kind of use all your fingers to go up, right? If we're thinking that the drum is a hot pan, right, you hit it and then come back up. So you don't want to spend too much time in this low area. You want to make sure that when you hit it, you come back up. And like I said earlier, it's the hardest to feel good, and it probably will never feel good, but it's the thing that will get us from piano to forte or low to high. You want to make sure that it's a closed hand, like I said earlier. If you have your hand open, it's going to be really hard to get it up because you have all the space in your hand to kind of let it wiggle. But if you have all your hands on there, relax, and you get it up, then you'll have a nice upstroke. Cool. And so those are really the 4 stroke types that ever exists. Cool. And so if you utilize these, knowing them is one part of the equation, but then utilizing them and translating them into what you're playing is another kind of beast on its own. So everything you play is in these strokes. Like if we think about a simple rudiment like paradiddles, it's going to be a downstroke, a tap stroke, tap stroke, tap stroke, downstroke, tap stroke, and then upstroke, right? So it's like all these different things that we play that are part of our arsenal. We are utilizing every stroke type at all times. So if you practice these isolated, just remember to put them in practicality, because I think knowing them in isolation is not good enough because you're not actually thinking about what you're playing. So if you are playing something, or if you are learning a piece, or you're learning an exercise, try to see if you can mark down on each note of what you're doing. Like, is this a downstroke, a tap stroke? And, you know, if it is crescendos, that's kind of another beast that we have to worry about. But if everything is kind of 2 heights or 1 height, then you can really, really, really utilize these tap strokes to kind of dictate what your hand shape's going to be and if it's going to be open or closed, which is, for me, was the hardest thing to kind of dictate. So we'll go more into depth with all these other basics, but you have to know these 4 stroke types to even remotely know kind of what we're going to do in the rest of the videos, in the rest of the series. Knowing these 4 stroke types is super, super, super important, and it's a thing that will get you from being okay to good and beginner to okay, you know? So knowing these 4 stroke types, really important. And like I mentioned before, if you want to progress a little faster, just join our free community. So many drummers, so much information that's getting passed around, and a lot of good people that are just sharing what they know. So hopefully this helped. Let me know down below if this does help, or maybe you kind of see it in a different way. But that is it, and hope you have a good rest of your day. Thank you.